Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on October 18th. That worked out well. October 18th, 2022 at approximately 1:10 p.m. PST. Now, figured I might just well do this a little differently and see what happens when things work out. But I want to take a look at how do you get refocused and stay focused on your own success. Now, I've been running through my own issues, as I've told you before. Okay, but the reason I call myself a spiritual guide is simple. The tools I offer are the same ones that I personally put to use. Now, one of the biggest tricks in the book, and I don't actually have it on paper here, but yes, I do. That one was. But one of the best tricks in the book is put a list together. Now, I've actually moved over and started doing it on my computer. Okay. It helps with such things as overcoming procrastination. And rest assured, I'm very good at procrastinating. But one of the tricks the thing with an actual list, Black Dragon, how you doing? Glad you can make it. You know, I'm doing my best to get on track. I spend a lot of time on the phone with a marketing executive in order to try and get things moving in the right direction. You know, frankly, technology and I still do not get along well. But what I do know, one person does not accomplish much. Okay. Like it's great to be good at whatever you're doing. But how do you stay focused when you keep running into obstacles? You know, I hear people regularly going, I'm doing my best to move forward, but I start making headway and then I get kicked down again. How do I deal with that? Okay. You know, that is just the reality behind it. So how do you deal with it? Well, the first thing you do is go, number one, regardless of what anybody says, I am moving forward. That's just the way that's going to go. Okay, I'm not going to buy into it. And it really boils down to stubborn disposition. Okay, I'm not going to let anybody tell me I can't accomplish it. Okay, now, I can tell you all the problems I've run into, but let's just say I've gone through more than my fair share of them. At least from my standpoint, it certainly feels like it's more than my fair share. That probably works better. But the trick to it is you start off with literally 3 goals. Okay, well, technically you start off with 1. Whatever it is, in my case, I always make sure that my office is running properly so that I can accomplish what I'm aiming for. Okay, and that can be a bit of a challenge to start with. But when that comes into play, you really take a look at the way your life is and go, okay, I desire to accomplish X. Whatever X is, break that down into smaller 15-minute to half-hour tasks. Okay, now I do this all the time for myself, and it works like a charm. This is the same tool that I've offered to literally thousands of people over the years. Okay, but I can tell you this, it doesn't matter if I give you the tools. If you don't pick them up, they're not going to work. Okay, it's very much like a hammer. If somebody hands you the best hammer in the world, you don't pick it up, it's not going to make any impact. Okay, and if it does, you got a bigger problem. But I have all kinds of little complications I run into. I'm sure you do. If you've got a goal, even if it's been dormant for years, now is the time to really look at it and see if it is still a doable thing. The only goals I know of that you cannot accomplish, even if you put them on, especially if you put them on hold. If you were intending on becoming a multimillionaire by the time you were 30 and you're now 31, you may still become the multimillionaire, but you won't do it by the time you're 30. Okay, so you've got to get focused on what is feasible. Time frames, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about a rich person or a poor person. Doesn't matter the walk of life. You're all right here, right now, and you cannot change the way you got to where you are, but you can change where you're heading. And that's up to you. But you're the one that's going to have to do the work. Okay. You're the one that's going to have to pick the tools up and actually make it happen. Now, sometimes, like what I did here, okay, I just finally figured out, I've been doing this for a year and a half. Well, since March 6th of 21, right? And I finally figured out with this, well, I guess I've only been going live the last little while here, but like the last month or so, but I finally figured out how to get things up. You just have to wait for them to catch up to you. It's not instantaneous, but it does work. Now, whoa. Would you not do that? There we go. Now I can actually see what I'm looking at here. See, I didn't want to sit that close, but I can't read the screen in front of me here. Okay, my eyes work better than they did, but I still can't read at the electronic side. However, now I've got up and running, so when I look to the side here, I've got another screen here that's much closer. I can now see what people are saying, which works out better. But you pick the goal you're on. If you run into a snag, and this is the real kicker to it, if you run into a hiccup, a barrier, you feel like you've been kicked down again, the only option you've got two options. Sit there and complain, or ask for somebody, three options. Ask for somebody to help you get back up and on your feet. Or the third one is just be absolutely stubborn and go, I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up. Chad, how you doing? Glad you could make it. When I take a look at things, I go, okay, I'm running into barriers left, right, and center. This much is pretty clear. But this does not mean it has to stay that way. All it means is that's where I'm standing right now. Now I'm just going to pull that up, move it up onto the top screen here so I can actually see the other side of what I'm doing. And, the funny thing is, yes, I end up talking to myself a lot of the time. What I did find with these videos, is it does help me keep motivated. A lot of the time, like I'm going through right now, the individual that is helping me edit the Yldrbac Chronicles is currently helping me go through the old journals I did on paper and digitizing them. So that I'll be able to take a look at those and go, okay, this is what I was going through. And it is absolutely remarkable. Very big sidetrack, okay. But I came across in my paperwork a recipe. If you look in the Yldrbac Chronicles, there is something that they call borsats, which is their modern version of coffee. But I found a recipe for it. I had somebody do some research for me, an herbalist, do a little bit of research to figure out something that could work. So now I've got the recipe. Now I can test it out. Okay. Because from my standpoint, it's real simple. Pick a goal, and anything that is getting in your way of attaining that goal, providing you're not deliberately hurting somebody else to do it, make it happen. Okay, one of the biggest things that I've found is this. If you're not putting the effort in, it doesn't matter how strongly somebody else believes in what you're doing. It's not going to work that well. Now, am I currently able to do a whole lot properly with marketing? No. But in all fairness, I didn't even understand what I was asking people to make. And that's the problem. Where it comes to, and I know, especially you, Chad, I know full well that, let's face it, your name here is Chad Smith Podcast, tells you you're doing a podcast. You know the problem with marketing. You know the problem with, with the website, with visibility, that sort of thing. So you know what questions you're looking for. When you take a look at somebody like me, frankly, I'm behind the 8 ball. And I'm only just now figuring out what I've been doing ineffectively. Okay, but the key factor there is you don't give up at all. Okay, you'll run into bad days. You'll run into, you may have a down period where you're feeling very depressed, feeling very overwhelmed. It doesn't matter what I do, I get kicked in the head again. And, that really is the problem. We get kicked so often, but people are so drilled into this idea that it's got to be instant. It doesn't work that way. Okay, this is the first time, if you look at my other videos, today is the first time that I sat there and went, okay, we'll hit that button, and up came the current video as you're seeing it, which is really kind of interesting. Well, I do appreciate that, Chad. It's on. Part of what kept me going, kept me focused on it, is actually comments from people like you, like yourself, like Black Dragon, like Dave Scott. That consistency will build and will make things grow. It will help keep it in the rhythm. Good afternoon, Ange. Glad you got here. And for me, I'm using this sort of like, and this is why I get a little scattered. I'm using this sort of like a video journal for me at the same time. It's not that I go back over it. Okay, I actually don't listen to my own videos. I never found much point to them. Okay, but what I do is it gets me thinking of those things, and that's why I've got this stack of paper beside me here. Right? I'm still old school. So I've got a stack of paper here that I make notes on to make sure I stay on track. Now, down here, like I said, I put my list on disk now. One of the nice parts about putting it on disk is that I can bring it up. I can move it up here onto the fourth screen I've got. And now if I've got something that I need to add to my list, I just add it in here. But I tell you, I ran into an interesting problem this morning. I was supposed to be getting horoscopes done and what have you, because I do those online as well. But I woke up this morning and I'm going, okay, I've got to get them done because they've got to be out by this afternoon. Of course, I got up this morning thinking it was Wednesday, which, by the way, for me is just plain normal. Okay, when you're aiming at a goal, even if you've put it on hold for a long time, take a look at it. Go, is it feasible? Is it still something you desire to attain? Now, I will get all 12 books written. Like the entire saga, I will get written. I'm hoping to do it inside of 6 years, but I've set it up for inside 10. Now, being 59, I'd like to get it done as soon as possible, primarily because my current printer, I was just talking to her a couple of days ago, and she figures she's got about 15 years left of work. So I want to have, this is one of those goals that somebody else set. I'm looking at probably closing down, barring problems beforehand, in 15 years. Therefore, all of the books have to be written before then to make sure of the consistency. Ange, that's kind of comical. See, I'm just on the wrong side of the world, that's all. But, if I could keep time straight, it would be fantastic. Because I got stressed out this morning because I thought it was Wednesday. The deadline is for tomorrow, not for today. But you've got to take a look at it. Now, it was thanks to, quite frankly, I was watching my numbers in my videos, the numbers of subscribers I've got, and going, okay, I'm watching them, but I'm looking at the wrong number. Okay, would you mind opening up all the way? Thank you. That's very kind of you. Now, I want to get to my dashboard so I can see what I'm looking at. And I go to there and take a look at my dashboard when it pops up. There we go. Now I can see what numbers look like. But the thing is, as I'm certain some of you realize, in order to get to the point where this actually starts generating an income, okay, I've got to get to 1,000 subscribers. Now, I am absolutely amazed I'm sitting at the number I have. Okay. But I spent the morning talking to my web designer, and he has come up with a whole bunch of things he's going to be doing to help to help get the visibility and the sales from my books. Okay, I absolutely have to take a look at things and really start pushing that. This much I know. But half the trick of becoming successful, once you know what you feel success is, well, the sad part there, when I look at it, Ange, I claimed this a long time ago, and this kind of brings me to a sidetrack. I looked at it a long time ago. It seems I'm about 150 years ahead of myself where it comes to what I'm seeing happening. But where it comes to understanding technology, I am both ahead and behind. Okay. You give me, I'm still pen and paper. Okay. My database for all of my passwords, you'll never hack because it's on cardstock. Okay. But at the same time, I'm looking at events that are taking place. And about 30 years after I start telling people what's coming, that's when things show up. Well, at this point, 30 years down the road, I may well be dead. At least once or twice between now and then. But we'll see what happens. So I got looking at it, and I'm going, okay, how do you get on track? Well, first of all, you got to know where you are. Well, here, this will solve that problem. Where you are on your path is right here, right now. This is where you're starting. It doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter who you are. So that's where you start. Where are you heading? That depends on you, and I cannot make that decision for you. Okay, I can tell you from my standpoint, I've got a lot of different goals up and running. Okay, not the least of which is getting the complete Yldrbac Chronicles saga up and running. Okay, and turning it into a viable income. That is number one. Okay. Number two that I'm working on is getting rid of all the junk in my place. Well, I'll tell you, that's going along quite nicely. But when you do it, what you do is you take your goal, write it down on paper, whatever it is. The primary goal, that's my primary one. And this is why so much gets put towards it. This is why so much effort gets put into it. But I've always had this drive to take people and go, okay, look, these are obstacles you're going through. Here's an option on how to fix them, on how to correct them, how to get back on track for you. But I am not the one that can tell you how I cannot make it happen for you. Okay, I can tell you it works. I can tell you if you haven't tried this method, if you haven't put the list together, don't make the mistake of assuming it won't work because you've never tried it. Okay, but again, and this is why you keep it to 3 things on your list. Okay, if you can get caught up in the list thing and just end up with a mile-long list, this does not work well. It's actually counterproductive. Okay, but most people get caught up in the same problem. Okay, they look at this huge list, they go, I've got to get this room fixed. I've got to get it brought up to snuff. And they go, okay, I'm going to get to work on it. But if you don't break it down, if you start off, and this is where this book came in. Okay, this one here. Believe in yourself and follow your dreams. In this book, I tell you exactly how to do it. And here's what I'm referring to. And no, I'm not going to say, oh, you have to buy this book in order to get the secret. The trick to it is this. You break the goal down. Okay. And the goal you break down is this. You go, okay, just for example, I've got to clean my living room top to bottom. It's got clutter all over it, and it needs vacuuming and dusting. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's how mine is right now. I'm saying that's the situation you're looking at. You can either go, well, this is going to take me a couple hours, and you get to work on it, and you leave it at that. So you get to work on it, 15 minutes in, for whatever reason, you get called away. Okay. So you come back to it, and now you've got 2 problems. First, you feel like you didn't get anything done because the place is still a disaster. Second, you've got to find another 2-hour block to do it. That can be a challenge. When you break it down into smaller tasks, i.e., clear the floor, clear the couch, clear the coffee table, okay, you break them down into smaller tasks. As you get them done, check them off. Okay, By doing this, if you only get 15 minutes and you only get the coffee table cleared, you get called away, you come back, the coffee table's already done. Now you're down to only having to find an hour and 45 minutes to get this whole task finished. Okay, but when you break the task down into 15-minute to half-hour tasks, you can check them off and see quantifiable proof that you're making headway. Okay, this in and of itself will help you get focused. Now, one of the hardest things I found with putting these videos, with going live, was this. I thought, real erroneous thought, and you'll get a chuckle, and some of you will get a chuckle out of this. It's like, okay, sit down, go, I'm going live, and we're up and running. Problem with that is it usually takes me 20 minutes to half an hour to get set up to be up and running. Okay, once I've done that, then I can get up and go. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why I look at the slightly longer videos, because the reality is, since I can't record ahead of time, it takes me that long to get up and running. Well, I'd end up spending half an hour to get up and do a 15-minute video and continue on like that. It's not practical. Okay, but you can, the whole issue of putting the list down is it helps you stay focused on what you're looking for. Okay, so what I'm looking at now is I was talking to my marketing specialist here, and he's actually proving to be rather beneficial. He's supposed to be calling me back tomorrow. Then we're going to walk through things and make them actually happen. So we should be seeing a reasonable change in visibility and what have you on the net. Of course, the other thing I have to look at is how do I get people up and running? How do I start getting that to happen? And just dawned on me, I'm sitting here, and absolutely your input is really appreciated. Jeffrey, didn't see you coming in. Sorry I missed you coming through the door, but welcome aboard. It just dawned on me when I get done here, if I take the address to where this video is, and take that to put it to my other sites after it's done, then people can at least get a hold of it afterwards. Still working on the mechanics behind it, but welcome me and technology. Okay, so once you've got the idea, this is the goal I've got. I take a look at everyone out there and go, you've all got goals, you've all got dreams. 90% of you had dreams, actually probably 99% of you had dreams when you were in your early to mid-teens. So I'd really like to do this. And here you are sitting 10, 20, maybe 40 years. Like in my case, I'm looking at 45 years later. I'm looking at this going, I had a dream when I was in grade 10 of putting books in print, of getting my story on paper. Okay, well, here I am at 59, so 44 years later, here I am, I've got 2 of the books in print, and I'm on a definitive path to get them done. Okay, that's just the reality of it. Black Dragon, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, I think I already did that once, didn't I? No harm there. Yep, you were actually first through the board by the look of it. You may well have a dream. You're going down one road right now, and you've got this thing in the back of your head going, gee, I wish I had done that. You're not going to do it before, you're not going to do it necessarily by the age you asked. But there are very few dreams that you have that cannot be accomplished. It's just a question of focusing on what they are and making it happen. And again, you take the energy, anything that is blocking your path, that is not contributing to your attaining those goals. This is what we have to look at. So I look at my computer setup here. Okay, and yeah, it runs on, I've got a glass desk here, and you can see the same one. That one over there is a replica, is a duplicate to this one. So I've literally got glass shelving all the way around. I've got the office desk all the way around, but all this side is for painting. Okay. So I get everything that's blocking the energy there, that's stopping me from accomplishing things, and get it out of the way so that I can carry on moving forward. You've got to do exactly the same thing. Well, correction, you don't have to do it, but I will tell you, if you don't pick up your own feet and make it happen, it's not going to. Okay, not in all likelihood. Now, I keep trying to find a time that I can get on board properly. Okay. And about the only time I know for certain, and I look at it on Saturday and, on Saturdays and what have you, how do I get up and running? When is the best time? Now, I'm looking at a global population here. Okay. And what happens on Saturday? Saturday is the only time I can look at it and go, okay, I can get up and running, and I can probably arrange to be on schedule, like on video, by 9:00 in the morning. Okay, 9:00 Pacific time. Now, 9:00 Pacific time, you get to figure out what it is at your end of the world. Okay, but as near as I understand it, that puts it at about 5:00 in the afternoon, I think. Yeah, about 5:00 in the afternoon. So right around supper time over in England. Okay. Oh, not a problem, Black Dragon. The fact you joined us at all. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. The only reason I don't broadcast during work is because some of you have seen it, where I've been trying to do something, especially if you listen to me on Spaced Out Radio. If that phone rings, I have to go and deal with it, and I don't get options on it. So I have to put things together. Like today, I've been on here for half an hour now, and I've got only another, where are we? We are at 22. So I really have a little less than an hour left that I can be here. Okay, I'm trying to get a regular schedule up and running. And I call it trying because my schedule gets absolutely screwy. Okay, and I've got a lot of things going on. Like, for instance, I found my old journal entries, so I've got to get them done. And this is where that list comes in. You put these things all on list. And, I laid out a schedule for myself today, and all of a sudden, it went, wait a minute. That schedule just went out the window because I got a phone call that completely derailed the whole thing. Couple that with technological hiccups, and I was hooked. However, again, you run into an obstacle, and you just get back up, and sometimes it's nothing but stubborn disposition. In all fairness, a lot of the reason I maintain that I managed to keep pushing myself and getting back on the track here is because of people like you that have contacted me and said, look, this is helping. Thank you for doing it. It's that encouragement that helps me pick up my own feet and go, okay, I've got to keep doing this. It does help me, don't get me wrong. But the reality is it still cuts into what's going on. And I'm absolutely certain that those of you that run podcasts run into this problem yourself, where there are days you wake up going, I just don't feel like doing this today, so I'm not going to. But as it was pointed out to me, you miss 3 or 4 days, and it's like 1,000 years. If you're going out if you're broadcasting on a daily basis, you miss 3 or 4 days, it's like 1,000 years has gone by. Okay. I mean, there was 4 years ago, I ran into an interesting snag because what happened was I went and had a stroke and it completely screwed up the whole 9 yards. World Bigfoot, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So I do my best at some point. I haven't figured out how to get a definitive, here's the time I can come on. But I will ask you guys this one. Okay. Now I'm looking at Saturday, and frankly, Saturday mornings, pretty much usually, I should be able to be on the air by 9 a.m. Pacific. Okay. What I'm curious about is whether or not, from your standpoint, that's a viable time to come on a regular basis. Because quite honestly, you know, from quite honestly, from my standpoint, um, when I'm looking at talking to people, it makes sense to do it at a time that they can actually come on board if they choose to. You know, so I'm looking at probably sticking with the 9 a.m. on the Saturday. The rest of it, it has to be hit and miss for the time being. Because, like I started to say, I'm working on journals, the Yldrbacian Chronicles, and I'm working on getting rid of a whole lot of stuff, learning about marketing, the whole 9 yards. But I discovered something the other day being last night. I'm looking at this issue about the size of the earth, quite literally, because I'm writing the Yldrbacian Chronicles from the beginning of time. Something just hit me, and it's like, okay, I know the earth right now is the size it is. I know that, from my standpoint, I know there's a lot of theories out there, and I can't prove any of this. But the question around the moon has always been, how did it get there? Was it put there? Was it artificially put there? Or was it a natural construct? Now, I've always held that it came into orbit. Okay. Now, in all fairness, we could call it being put there. Okay. We could call it being put there because of the way that it got built. But I got thinking about it, because most people, when they look at it being caught in orbit, will tell me it couldn't be. The moon, by ratio, is too big for the Earth to actually snag it. Okay. The Earth is, or the moon compared to the Earth, is too big for the gravitational pull of the Earth to snag it and hold it in place. And dawned on me that if you're looking at if you look at the moon, okay, what if the moon was not that size? What if it turned around and started off smaller and then grew? Okay, well, I just did the calculations this morning based on what I found as an estimate from the scientific community. Okay, in all fairness, world, in all fairness, you're absolutely right. And I can tell you this, because honestly, I remember the Earth being built. I don't have scientific proof for that, but it wasn't so much to handle the Earth's wobble. It was to encourage an atmospheric growth. Okay. It was to stabilize, was also to help put a counterbalance in, so the Earth, when it was traveling around in that loop, would stay in that loop. Okay, so it worked out rather nicely. But the thing is, it wasn't moved into orbit. It was actually captured. It was okay, maybe I should put it this way. From your standpoint, it was spirits that actually built it. And this is where science and spirituality run smack into a balance point. The answer to that, Angie's just asked, do you think we had two moons? The answer to that is there have been transitory moons, not in the basic thing that I just stumbled across today, and I presume this is what you're referring to, is that the two moons were there, but they ended up, I read it today, somebody came to the idea that they merged, and only in a technical fashion. Okay, the primary moon that is still there, okay, was built there. It was literally placed in place. So people are correct. It was done to maintain the balance. Okay, the wobble itself did not. The Earth was not built with a wobble. It was built to run on a static pattern. However, nature has a way of creating some interesting situations. But over the millennia, while it was coming into being, other planets did end up, or other moons, if you will, did end up in orbit. But the reason we've only got one is every once in a while, those extra moons, because they weren't in a solid orbit, would run into the main moon and be catapulted off elsewhere. Okay. Some of those got caught up in Saturn's belt. Some of them got caught up in the Kuiper belt. Okay, some of them just headed off, and I have no doubt, although I got no way of backing this one up, I have no doubt that some of them got caught up in Jupiter's orbit. Most of them just got punched out of the area. Okay, but here's what I do know. And no, they're not going to back this one up, but I'm used to that. Okay, the current moon has a tiny itty bitty, and when I'm talking itty bitty, we're talking a fraction of an inch of an atmosphere around it on the moon right now. I also have caught wind that governments are looking at developing the technology to drag an asteroid into geosynchronous orbit. Okay, around the current moon. But the reason for that is to put a station in place for building interstellar ships. Okay, a lot of logic to that. Costs a lot less to build it up off of Earth. Okay, and then so you don't have to deal with it. Gotta ask, Canada Football. Welcome aboard, by the way. Gotta ask. There are a lot of moon residents, don't get me wrong. But do you have anything in particular you're afraid of with them? Because what I'm looking at, like the ones I know of, there's a massive transitory population there. It's essentially a way station. Okay. But the people up there, it's kind of, if you look at Star Trek, what was it, Deep Space Nine, and you have this great big community built up there. Ultimately, that's what you're looking at, a massive shift in people. Well, you're about 14 feet shorter. Jeffrey was just asking, how do we differ from the beings on Nibiru? Well, the beings on Nibiru are anywhere from 18 to 24 feet tall. That'd be the starting point. Okay. Nope. They really don't. They have, just like humans and off-worlders, it doesn't matter who. Everybody has individuals. Some people are nice, some people are nasty. Some people like other people, other races. Other people are terrified of them. Okay. Myself, I've never found a difference in them. Individuals, absolutely, I've found differences. But rest assured, they don't hate humans. I will tell you, a lot of off-worlders are actually afraid of humans. Okay. A lot of off-worlders are absolutely terrified of them because humans have a curiosity streak that is absolutely insane. And because of their capacity to handle what humans call zero-point energy, they have the ability, when humans work together, to make incredible progress. Okay, make absolutely incredible progress, fantastic discoveries. But humans' curiosity and their aggressive nature, plus what I've come to understand is an absolute collapse in humanity. In other words, people's caring for each other. There's where a lot of your problems are. Okay. But do off-worlders hate humans? No. Some of them like them too much. Tech-like are an example. They love humans. Of course, they call them hors d'oeuvres half the time, but you get the idea. But this is one of those things I look at. When I was starting to write the Yldrbacian Chronicles, it was well underway, and I had a lot of encouragement, a lot of questions about these other races. which I was already including in the Chronicles anyway. And when I got onto Spaced Out Radio, a lot of people were asking about the different races. So I'm taking a look at it going, well, the information apparently isn't out there. So I started putting it together. Okay. I started putting the whole thing together and going, okay, well, we've got the Yldrbac Chronicles. And this particular book was an accident. It was the result of a lot of questions on different races, but this is only a reference manual. We are still working on the pictures. Okay, and I'm hoping to have it out before the end of the year. And that's something, again, I'll be moving pictures around today to see exactly where I'm standing, as well as figuring out what the next batch are. But I took a look at it, and this is what I mean by get focused so that everything points in the same direction. I'm looking at the Chronicles, okay? Tied to that, I've got this whole issue around the races of the worlds, okay? Plus, of course, I've showed you these ones. This is coming along nicely, okay? This one I will probably be able to finish up today. You'll notice there's still white images on it, or white pieces on it that I've got to deal with. I'll be finishing this one off this afternoon. There's just everywhere where there's white, there's some extra color that's got to go in there. So it'll be tied off this afternoon while I'm on shift. Okay. But again, that is an Arborean. Wonder if the other one is visible. I know I've shown you before. Where is it here? If I stand up and go over here, where the heck did I put it? And, of course, it's not in a box. It's up on this shelf. Okay. So, what did I just do with it? Right there. Okay, now this will give me an idea of what I'm doing with them. Here is one Arborean, okay, that I've got. I don't recall this one's name offhand as far as the story goes. This one, real positive individual. This one, but he's oak, okay, is what I was aiming at as far as paint color goes. This one, on the other hand, is an ironwood Arborean. Okay, needless to say, different color. But the reality is, I'm not entirely certain what color ironwood actually is. But it did work out well. So now, I've got the two of them. Okay. And this one I'll finish off today, because the other one's already pretty much done as far as I desire to at this point. So I mean, I'm looking at things going, what is working towards it? I've got the stories being written. I've got various different other hobbies tied together. One of the things I'm doing, and again, when I talk about everything being connected, okay, you take a goal and start linking it together. So I've got time put aside to work on past journals to really get an idea of what I've gone through, because we're talking about journals from years ago. As a matter of fact, I filled out one the other day. I had one that was written just on a sheet of paper, and I'm getting it moved into hard copy. Whether it ever gets printed, I wouldn't bet my life on it, but who knows? Okay. But I'm getting that dealt with. The Yldrbac Chronicles are being written. Clear out the energy from your standpoint today, if you haven't done it already. When you're looking at your material world, the one thing we have to get organized is you got to realize money is not the goal. Money has to be a side effect. Okay. I had the pleasure of actually talking to somebody the other day. They were at the hospital because a friend of theirs was in trouble. And they phoned me because they were looking for a way to bypass what the doctors were saying was not possible. They didn't want their friend to die. And by the way, death is not as dangerous a thing. It's not as depressing as it might look. It also doesn't solve your problems, by the way. So what you've got to decide is, are you content with the way your life is? Well, in a way, Chad, yes. Many of the ancient races, the ones that are actually on Earth, that actually evolved here, and some of the races, some of the off-worlders, have turned around and picked up this as this holiday. But Halloween itself, from my understanding, was, first of all, it was, never mind whether it was pagan, Christian, or whatever. I don't care. Okay, it really doesn't matter which one it was. But it used to be a question of go around, dress in something frightening. It was a way of honoring the demons and the devils that were working here, that were on this planet, and quite frankly, many of them still are. Okay, so, but what the other races have turned around and done is gone, this is when we can come out and interact with humans, and nobody thinks about it. Okay, it's the ultimate. Thank you, man. Thank you, world. Okay, world. Bigfoot Radio is just telling us it's Samhain, which was a pagan holiday. You know, many of the holidays have been absorbed, subverted, changed, whatever. Okay, the important factor is this: where the off-worlders and the ancient races are concerned, the ones on this planet, and subsequently some of the ones from this planet, when they go home, have gone, hey, we should have a holiday, and they'll base it on their own homes, you know, on their own belief structures and what have you, and turn it into something more on their worlds. On Earth, you'll find a staggering number more ancient races, off-worlders, that come out in public, and you never even know about them, because of the fact they're able to put really great costumes, fantastically realistic costumes on. Okay. You'd be amazed how many grays actually sit there, and it's not just the grays. You go up onto the ships, and I've mentioned this to people before. The off-worlders, the Galactic Consortium, on their main ships, they actually watch broadcasts, and some of them absolutely watch the sports. Many of them think the sports are rather tame because there's no bloodshed. Okay, and it's like, you know, I was asked one day by a couple of Nordics, you know, a couple of the Nordic race. They looked at us and went, well, how can that be a game when they've still got all of their players alive at the end of it? Okay, you know, humans have sports, absolutely. I mean, from my standpoint, it would essentially, you are right, Ange. Okay, but yes, they do sit. They'll watch the football. They'll watch hockey. They'll watch any of the sports. Okay, some of them emulate it. Okay, and even if we go back into the Middle Ages, there were many, some of these sports date back that far, or more to the point, variations, not called by the same thing. Okay, but do they have their own holidays? Do they have their own spiritual beliefs? Have they gone through the same kinds of horrors that mankind is going through right now? The answer is absolutely they have. Okay, but they also eventually learned, and this is one of the things that has drawn so much attention to them. Ultimately, yes, it really is. Humans are right now, from a xenosocioeconomic standpoint, okay, you know, from a xenosocioeconomic standpoint, there is an interesting situation. This is the turning point for modern society. Okay, right here, right now, civilization is at a turning point. It's either going to learn to work together, or it's going to blow itself back to the Stone Age all over again. You know, 40,000 years ago, we had world peace across the world. No war, no anger. There was no jealousy. There was just cooperative effort. And then the civilization took an absolute devastating turn and was wiped out, over 10 billion strong, and gone like that. Okay. Or more to the point, they didn't just vanish, they died. But 40,000 years ago, okay, somebody, and we never did figure out who, came up with a brilliant idea, because everything was built on a manifestation level. Now, manifestation by human standpoint is this: energy out, energy in. What you put your focus into, that's what you're going to manage to grow. Okay. Now, it's funny, when the book The Secret came out, the day it came out, a client of mine actually phoned me up and says, look, I've sent you a disc, because what these people are saying, you've been teaching us you've been talking to me about for the last 10 years. Okay. Mankind has had to reduce manifestation from think about it and there it is, to visualize it, do the physical work, and build it. You have the same capacity as anybody else. Doesn't matter what your pocketbook looks like. Doesn't matter who you worship or who you crawl into bed with. Doesn't matter who you vote for. Okay, you all have the same capacity to make your dreams a reality, but you've got to do the work for it. Okay, and you can procrastinate all you'd like. There's no question. Okay, you can absolutely put it on hold and just go, I'm not doing it. Okay, but here's the kicker to it. If you postpone it, when you do get around to getting to it, you're still looking at the same problem. When you act on it, it is right here, right now. This is the only time in existence you can ever change it, that you can ever do anything. But you got to remember, you cannot undo that which you've done. The past is solid. Okay, you can look at the past and go, these are the decisions I made, and here's the situation I'm in here, to get an idea of whether those decisions were a good idea, and to help you with your decision-making process. From there, you go, okay, I desire this change, so I'm going to look down the road and go, if I do this, will I attain the goal I'm looking for? Okay, for me, it's a question, it's a pretty quantifiable one in my case. Okay, and that is the sale of the books that I'm writing. I fully intend on, and I run into depression on occasion and really get sidetracked on it, but I fully intend on taking all of the books that I'm writing and getting them to provide my income. So I figure between the books, between when I get enough followers that I can monetize YouTube here, okay, then I will have an income that I can sit back and carry on with. But it boils down to moving everything out of the way that I do not desire to, that is not contributing to what I consider success. Okay, and I keep running into problems left, right, and center, but that's me in technology. Now going back to that other funny thing here, if you watch Halloween, okay, there's less and less people getting dressed up. And of course, from that standpoint, people are taught, there are so many cartoons that have been pulled off the air because they're not grown up enough. Cartoons were never intended to be grown up. They were intended to provide a distraction. Okay. So, realistically, we have to start looking at the number of people that are sitting there going, oh, we've got to ban this. I could not believe it. There are, banning books and stopping, destroying artwork. Okay, I couldn't believe this group of teenagers that I saw on the video the other day. Okay. This group of teenagers were complaining about the amount of wasted food. So what did they do with canned soup? Okay. They're talking about wasting food being so absolutely wrong. So what do? They open up cans of soup and throw it at irreplaceable artwork. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, this is not a good use of food to start with. I do agree there is way too much wasted food. There's way too much wasted energy. The people are spending their time walking around in circles. And you are right, Chad. As above, so below. Okay. As before, so beyond. Energy out, energy in, meaning what you put your effort into, that's what you're stacking the deck in favor of attaining. I'm looking at my world and going, I intend on making this happen. Okay, I was going through my videos. I've been looking, or not my videos, but my old journals, and I came across something rather remarkable. Back in the ones I'm working on right now are from 2019, and even then, I was talking about this issue of those four really important words. I am worth it. When you take a look at it, see, I take a look at what Dave did with Spaced Out Radio. And he went, I'm going to get on to terrestrial radio. That's where I'm aiming for. Well, from what I understand, he's on it. Okay. Meaning the goal he set for himself, he did the work, he focused, he remained on point. Net result, outcome. And yeah, football. Oh, okay, Chad. Thanks so much for dropping in. Glad you made it. Have yourself a great day. Football, just to let you know. Okay, I am looking into a number of other things. I do have a number of ideas as far as various things. As soon as I've got the websites up and running where I can work with it, then I will be looking into things like t-shirts, caps, that sort of thing. And of course, as you can well imagine, if I'm going to put together coffee cups, you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to be a decent size. Never, ever, ever, in my opinion, sell something you wouldn't buy. Okay. And you absolutely do not put a price on something that you wouldn't pay. Now, for me, let's face it, a standard size coffee cup. I should have thought about this, and I don't have one here. So I'm going to take 5 seconds out. I'm going to show you something just to put it in perspective. I'm just going to walk to my kitchen. I'll be right back. I did this because I wanted to show you a comparison here. Okay. Now, for those of you that are really curious about it, this is a standard size coffee cup. Okay. That's a standard size. There's the size of the coffee cup I use. Okay. Just to give you a clear understanding of it. Now, this one I seldom will use for anything. Okay. My backup size when my brown one is a little preoccupied with being dirty, my backup is a cup that size. And as you can see, I don't believe in these small coffee cups. They just don't work well for me. I have considered the idea where it comes to coffee cups of getting smaller ones because most people use them. Okay. But, I mean, that's just me. Yeah. Andrew's just saying, I have 3 coffee cup standards when I wake up. Yeah. See, this one works out to 3 to 4 cups depending on how full I fill it. Right. Yeah, see, I don't like tea to start with. But, that's just something I found out. Although the recipe I found, I'm going to see if I can actually put it together. The recipe I found, and I mentioned this earlier in this broadcast, for borsars, I do have the recipe for it. And if it turns out to taste half as decent as I think it will, then that'll work. but it will be essentially. It probably will be done more like. I don't know if I'll end up if it will be me if I'll end up doing it with fresh leaves or seeds. I know what the ingredients are. I just don't know what they look like. Yeah, see the problem with a with the 100-ounce cup for work is it's got to be insulated because I don't personally like cold coffee that much. I certainly don't like cold coffee grounds, and I've ended up with those on occasion. But you'll notice when I'm talking, I jump around. I don't come into this with here is exactly how things are going because my life has never gone that way. Okay. Every time even today, I tried scheduling things to say this is what's going to happen. Got myself really stressed out because, well, I thought today was tomorrow. Which is annoying from my standpoint. I can just picture what it's like for my other half. Because I get agitated when I lose track of time. But the trick is every time you get off track, reassess yourself, refocus your energy. Sometimes it means just get up and move about, come back, refocus, and carry on. Okay, because the only time you actually fail is when you give up. I remember with I think it was Alexander. I think it was Alexander Graham Bell. Nope. Now I'm drawing a blank here. The guy who actually invented the telephone, or the light bulb, rather. Okay, he was asked, "How do you feel about these several hundred failures you made on the way?" And he goes, "What do you mean failures?" The guy goes, "Well, you tried this 400 times, and that may be the wrong number." He says, "You tried this 400 times, and they all failed." He goes, "They didn't fail." He says, "I successfully found 400 ways it wouldn't work." Right, which means he didn't have to go back through them. So I've experimented with a lot of different techniques. And by the way, one of the biggest techniques I had for getting ahead was wait. Procrastinate. I'll wait until things fall into place. That doesn't work. Okay, the only thing that procrastination has ever accomplished is postponing things. But you still have to get up and deal with it. Okay, so as soon as I get off here, I'll clear my desk off again because I've got a few things here. Oh, here's one that, talk about a sidetrack, it's in my way. But this is one of those neat little critters that comes from that I've been painting, obviously. Okay, and I haven't finished him, but I will get to him a little later. As you can see, he's almost finished, so he'll get some more work. But these things need to move out. These guys are neat. Okay, that's a turtle. And yes, in case you were not aware, okay, I was asked something. I've got to look into it. I'm finding more and more races are coming to the surface. And so what I'm in the process of doing is documenting them while I'm getting the pictures done for Races of the World's Book 1. And I'm going through it and adding new information. But like I said, for those of you that already have a copy, as soon as I get the second printing out, I will announce it, and then just drop me a line and go, "I've already got it. The second edition will just be sent." It's just that simple. Okay, and the reason for that is when I put the first edition out, I put it out because I had so many requests for the information. I didn't have the time to get the pictures done. So I took the information, put it together, and went, "Here you go." What I'm doing is adding a little information there and the pictures. And most of the pictures are done at this point. Okay, so this is one of those goals that I'm looking at. Okay, but again, when you step off track, you get back on track. You pick up wherever you've run into a roadblock. Okay, take that information, put it into that list, And when you make sure the list is only 15 minutes to half an hour in length. Okay, very important on this side of it. Now, on that note, because I've got to get ready to go to work myself, I should probably do something about getting a bite to eat before I do. No, I'm not going to close it down yet. We're at the 105-minute mark. So I will be closing it down. Where are we? Yeah, about 15. Absolutely agree with you there, Black Dragon. I think it's the American military has a brilliant statement. The difficult we're already doing. The impossible just takes us a little longer. If you go back in my videos and you look for a subset called language, I did one on the word impossible and why, what you should be and what it is wise to replace it with, and why you use it that way, how detrimental it is to your own progress. If you take a look at the word impossible and you break it, all of a sudden it becomes I'm possible. Apparently, it is impossible to walk out of the morgue. I'm living proof that's not the case. Okay, the trick is believing you can do it in spite of what anybody says, but use your common sense. I know of a chap in the States, I heard of him, and he goes skydiving. He has skydived several times without a parachute. And I do mean all the way up to 10,000 feet, bail out, land safely with no parachute. Okay, this is possible. Highly unrecommended. Okay, from my standpoint, I don't recommend going skydiving at all. I never found the purpose. People have told me, oh, it's such a rush. I'm thinking, at 6 years old, I was picked up by a tornado. That takes all the rush of jumping out of a perfectly good aircraft. But when you're aiming at attaining a goal, okay, stay focused on the goal you desire. Now, if you look at this shelf up here, these are different figurines. I didn't paint them. I bought them because they fit properly. Okay, and these figurines actually are beautiful renditions for some of what goes on in the Yldrbacian Chronicles and some of the characters. Like the black one up here, this one here, is an absolute brilliant rendition of a character that shows up in the Return to Paradise. She's a black-winged Angelus. Okay, the Angelus is a race that looks essentially like angels. Okay, very passionate people in both in passive industries, in the creative side and in the aggressive side. Okay, but that's Embersley. Okay, and you get to meet her in the Return to Paradise. So, like I said, this whole office is designed around that work. The rest of my house, it's getting an overhaul just because. Okay, but whenever you're focusing on anything, okay, it is absolutely imperative that you get back on track. If you've been sidetracked, especially if you've been sidetracked because somebody told you it wasn't possible. I had a client years ago that phoned me up. When she was 16, she really desired to become a doctor. She got to me at 52 and was complaining because she says, I just can't do it. There's no way I'll become a doctor. We had a conversation a couple of times over. Next thing I knew, at 53 years old, she enrolled in medical school. I worked with her for the next 8 years. The last time I talked to her, she had graduated at 60 years old with her full MD. Okay, granted, she did not become a doctor by the time she was 30. Okay, but she did attain her goal. And this is what I mean by whatever your goal, whatever your dream, if you haven't attained it yet, other than the time frame in which you originally laid out to attain it, it is still in all likelihood doable. But it's up to you to pick up the tools to get off the couch and make it happen. I finally got things worked out. And I don't like dealing with a lot of people. I keep to myself a lot. This is a convenient way for me because honestly, I go out in public and I get edgy unless I'm actually working. You know, if I'm working in a crowd, I don't have a problem with it. If I'm just there, it can get overwhelming for me. Which I'm just going to put this out to you, okay? Because I got asked about the convention. I think it was earlier this year about the speaking at the UFO conference. Okay, from what I gather, and I forget the date, but I think it's in. I don't even remember what city it was, but there is apparently a UFO conference coming out next year. Okay, and with the dropping of the barriers to fly. Okay, if I end up with an invitation to it, if I end up with an invitation to come out and speak, and and the barriers have been dropped regarding flight, then yeah, I will do my level best to be there. Okay, I don't have a problem with speaking at public engagements. I don't have a problem with getting on the horn, with getting onto podcasts with other people. Okay, I have a problem with going out in public when I'm not working. Aside from one restaurant in town that I go there to write. Okay, went there and to write today, and instead of getting a whole lot of writing done, I calculated out something that was really weird. Worked it out that in the last 5 billion years, based on the information on the mathematical calculations that were already available, I worked it out that in the last 5 billion years, Earth has gained an extra 20 feet, an extra 20 miles in diameter. Okay. Basically, it works out to every 5 billion years, Earth is 20 miles wider. Okay. Now, that may seem like pocket change right now. And realistically, if you think about that, if it's only 20 miles, God knows how long it would take to double in size. And I'm just not doing the mathematics for it right now. But what it did do when I did the calculations, and I'll just throw this out there for you. There's this question around, was the Earth placed in orbit or was it picked up by gravity? Oddly enough, it's sort of a combination of the two. But the argument against the gravitational thing was the ratio between the size of the moon and the size of the Earth was too small of a difference for Earth's gravitational pull to grab it. And I got thinking, that is true, but we know Earth is growing. So what if we posit this little thought? And I'm sitting here going back and forth. What if the moon was not the comparative size it is, but was a lot smaller and just simply grew after it got into orbit? Okay. The moment I said that and that I wrote that down, right, I got a call from Esau. Okay, and she's like, well, how did you think our children are born? So ultimately, in the long run, because of things I know are coming and you won't know about them for probably 50 to 100 years, okay, might be longer than that, but this is why I'm putting it down on paper now. Okay, it's because with the things that are happening, with what I was talking about earlier, about moving the meteor, moving an asteroid into geosynchronous orbit, given that the Earth or the moon already has a microscopic atmosphere around it, but we're talking about a fraction of an inch. I don't know the exact depth of it. What I do know is because gravitation actually accelerates the flow there and is a prime ingredient for evolving atmospheres, the moment they do that, it will start having an impact on the atmospheric envelope. Very short, very small envelope right now. But in time, and we are talking probably thousands of years down the road, okay, might only be hundreds, depending on how technology evolves. the moon will develop a full-sized atmosphere, complete with flora and fauna. Who knows what they'll look like at this point? But eventually, because mankind will, on its current path, wipe out the viability of Earth as a life place. So mankind will end up moving to what will likely be called something like Earth 2, aka the moon. Okay, and continue on evolving from there. Now, yes, I know that sounds like science fiction, and it's a question I've asked multiple times myself. Here I am writing science fiction, science fantasy, you decide which. Okay. Is what I'm remembering the route for where the stories are coming, or are the stories the route for where the memories are coming? You get to decide that. Every shrink I've talked to has told me flat out my memory is working fine, my brain is working in a proper fashion, which kind of points in the direction of the memories are where I'm pulling the information. Okay. And it's an intriguing journey. It really is. And this is why I'm so glad you guys have decided to follow along with me. Now, with that in mind, okay, we are here hitting the 2-hour mark. So I am going to wind this down because I've got things I've got to get done, not the least of which is get ready for work. Okay, I will be back again. Exactly when, not sure, but I do know as soon as I lock it down, I got to run the numbers and make sure I get my scheduling right so that I can say, okay, on Saturday at this time, I will be here. So I can just go, that block is when I'm going to be, is what I'm breaking off for. Okay. And that way you'll know ahead of time. Instead of this issue of keep an eye open, and if you can make it, great, here you are. But it's a question of evolutionary focus. When you pick a direction to go, move everything out of the way that is interrupting it or is creating a barrier. And just remember, you have the capacity to make this happen. Okay, you've got the capacity to put things in place. But it is up to you to do the work necessary. And there's not a one of you that does not have that capacity. Many of you may not know how to go about it. And this is one of the reasons I keep coming back. Okay, is to try and point people in the right direction. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to wrap this up here and say thank you so much for joining me. I really have appreciated you being here. It makes it, quite frankly, a whole lot easier for me. With that in mind, I can't exactly do that. I typed that not half bad speed-wise. Anyway, I'm going to call it a day, but thank you so much again. And, when I talk to you again, that's great. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.